What up, everyone? This is Chris Itzwa here, coming to you with another movie review. And this time it is part two of my Rogue One a Star Wars review, Star Wars story review. And this time I'm going to be getting into spoilers. So if you have not seen the film, I would highly advise that you not watch this vid and go watch my spoiler-free review. So there's your warning right there. Now, it is Wednesday night, December 22nd. I have just come back from seeing the movie a second time. Two times is normally my limit on when it comes to seeing a movie in theaters. And if you saw my previous review, you know that I really loved Rogue One, a Star Wars story, man. I saw it and I gave it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was a great movie. But, seeing it a second time, I was wondering if my enthusiasm would still be there for the film. And I wanted to see, were there any things that were bugging me, and would my enthusiasm still be there? The answer is yes. I still love this movie, man. This is just a great movie. It is, as I said in my previous review, it is a great Star Wars anthology film and just a really good film on its own, man. I mean, what this movie does, coming out of it again, what really gets me is the final battle. The final battle, I guess you would call it, maybe third of this movie, it's going to go down as one of my all-time favorite final battles in a movie. I mean, it is just so well done. The action, the way it's directed, the character moments that happen throughout it. It's just fantastic. I mean, you talking about the action on the ground is fantastic, and the space battles that go on. I mean, all the stuff that came together in this final act is just really well done, man, and just left me hyped about the film. And the third act is definitely the highlight of this film. And one of the things that, and this is where the spoilers are going to come in for this review, one of the things I was really happy to see on the first time, and I definitely appreciated on the second viewing as well, I'm really happy that they killed all of the new characters in this film. Going into Rogue One, that was a big question. Telling this story, the group of rebels who stole the Death Star plans, I was wondering how, this being Star Wars is owned by Disney now, and the way this story is, are they really going to go for it and kill all these characters? And one by one, they did it. And that was a big check mark for me when I was watching this film the first time. And like I said, I appreciated the second time watching it because it would have been, I think, really bad writing had you had this important group of rebels. These characters live through this film, and it just ends up being bad writing that we don't see them throughout the entire original trilogy. So for the type of story that this is, a suicide story for these characters right here, it's perfect that they killed them off. And each of them had really good, last moments. I think they had really good character moments through this final battle. And one by one, as they went, I went, oh man, not that guy. I mean, the pilot, Chirrut and his buddy, and of course, Jyn and Cassian. Oh, and how can you forget K2SO? All of their last moments before they went out were fantastic, and I really enjoyed that. And speaking about those characters, I mentioned my first review that I had problems with some character development, and I don't think this is the greatest movie when it comes to character development. But what I realized is that for the story that this movie was trying to tell, a sort of a Suicide Squad type move, I don't want to even use that term, a doomed mission film, let's call it that. I think I got enough. I mean, I mentioned before, I think Jyn Erso was great. I thought that the story with her and her father was really good. She ended up being a really likable character for me and a really inspirational character. I mean, those two speeches that she gives, the one on the Rebel base talking about rebellions are built on hope, and then the one that she gives on the fighter plane or whatever, telling them, we'll keep searching till we can find those plans. That was great stuff. So she was great. K2SO was obviously fantastic. And I thought Cassian had some good stuff. It was really the secondary members of Rogue One that I initially had problems with. But even then, on the second viewing, I think that, you know what, those three characters I mentioned before, they were fine. And you know what? That's what you need. Okay, as long as those characters are done well, everything else is just, it's just gravy. And I think that the pilot guy, I can't remember his name, sorry, but I think, you know what, he ended up being a likable character, and he had lots of great moments in that final battle. So he was fine. And Donnie Yen and his buddy, look, not the greatest characters when it comes to character development, but likable characters. More so, Chirrut, he got the time to shine, and the other guy was really there just to be sort of his bodyguard. But they had lots of cool moments. And overall, I did get more of a sense of camaraderie among the group on the second viewing. So that ended up fixing what was one of my major problems with the movie the first time I saw it. On the second viewing, that problem's not really there for me, and I was really happy because it just made the final battle that much better. The fact that I did like these characters a whole lot more. And like I said, I'm really happy. I know it sounds wrong, but I'm really happy that they killed all of them off because it made for what was a very appropriate ending for this movie. And the fact that they did kill them all off, it's another great thing about this movie and just the way the story is. I mentioned Man on a Mission film, but it just feels like a great Western. I mean, like the Magnificent Seven, these characters go in, they do the job, they have their final standoff, and it's just really, really well done. So, those are the positives for me. Still, those are still the positives about this movie, what makes this movie great for me. But I do still have some complaints, and there's some stuff that I didn't really mention too well on my spoiler-free review. One problem with this movie is the score. The score of this movie, it's not done by John Williams. It's done by his name's escaping me right now. I think his last name is Garacino, something like that. Anyways, I'll remember it sooner or later. And his score, the problem with it is that it is a pale imitation of John Williams' score. What it does is that it cock teases you. You'll hear a few notes from the classic John Williams score, but then it just completely shits the bed, and then it plays just some really just kind of lackluster score after those classic notes, and you're listening to it going, come on guys, you got to do better than this. And the score just was not the highlight for this movie. I mean, The Force Awakens had lots of original tracks, and that score was a lot better than this one was, to be honest. And speaking of the score, the opening of this movie, the title, when that pops up, I thought that was laughable. Mainly because of the font. The font looked just bad. I mean, I don't know who could have looked at that font and said, that's a good idea. They should have just gone with what is the font that we see on all the logos for the film. I mean, that would have been good, but the font that they put up looked so damn cheap, and combined with the score, I thought that was actually one of the worst moments of the film. One of the few moments of the film that I looked at it and I went like, come on, y'all got to do better than this. So that's the first major negative for me is the score. The next thing is another, I guess, spoiler in the film, something that if you haven't seen the film, you should not want to know. And I apologize, in my spoiler-free review, I mentioned one of the characters they did this for, but I'm going to go into depth about it now, is the use of motion capture technology to bring some classic Star Wars characters to life. And right now I'm going to talk about Tarkin. I had no idea Tarkin was going to be in this movie, and I have to say, stand by what I said. Seeing it the second time, I don't think that it looked all that great, that technology to bring Tarkin back. I think the opening scene that he's in, the first scene, I watched it again because I wanted to like it, and I just couldn't. It just looks really, there's just an uncanny valley when it comes to CG and real people. I mean, you can machinery and stuff like that. A lot of times that looks great. When it comes to people, I mean, it's so obvious when it's CG, and his opening scene just didn't work for me. Now, I say opening scene because I'd given up on this after seeing it again on that first scene. For whatever reason, his second scene, whatever he was doing in his second scene, I can't remember what exactly. It's probably just standing around giving orders like Tarkin always does. But his second scene, I actually thought looked pretty good. It was the one moment when they used him that I'm like, you know what, this looks all right. Then afterwards it looked kind of iffy. So, I mean, this technology for me at times it can work. Like it worked for me with Iron Man and Civil War. Other moments like Paul Walker and Furious 7 and lots of moments with Tarkin here didn't quite work for me. And even Leia at the end, I think she looked better than Tarkin. Still looked kind of notice. I think it looked real. She just looked noticeably. There was something different looking about her, comparing her to how we, see Leia in A New Hope. There was just something about the face. I don't know, but I mean, it looked fine. Whatever. And speaking of classic, so those are my major negatives right there about the film still. It's the score, I don't think worked, and some of that CG stuff with the motion capture, I don't think worked that well. But in terms of stuff that did work, talking about classic characters like Tarkin and Leia, Darth Vader, I think this movie was used Vader in just the right amount. I've seen some reviews from online critics that I really like complaining Vader wasn't in the film enough. We had a whole trilogy of Darth Vader, all right, with that original trilogy. And y'all got to see his origins in the prequel trilogy. And Vader has popped up in media, other Star Wars media here and there outside the movies. I did not need this film to be a Darth Vader film. I think had they made him a prominent part of this movie, it would have overshadowed what this movie was trying to be. And that was trying to be the story of this Rebels. And I think you didn't need Vader in this movie a lot. This is an anthology film. So I think it's appropriate to just sprinkle him in. I mean, obviously only in 2 scenes, but sprinkle in him and Tarkin, and along with other references, characters from the other stuff popping up. I think it's fine. And a lot of people complain about that line he had, don't choke on your aspirations. People complain about that line. I like that line seeing it a second time. I think, Sassy Vader, I think that's cool. And obviously his scene at the end is just fantastic. And just the perfect, just what I've wanted to, his best action scene in the series by far. That's a fantastic Darth Vader scene. And man, those troops just running away in terror was just great. So I absolutely loved that. It was the perfect ending to the movie. I mean, the movie's great. And then you think it's going to end with Cassian and Jyn blowing up. But then, right then, they kick in the direct tie into New Hope. And that's fantastic. And so that's, like I said, perfect amount of references. And I actually even appreciated the reference to the prequels using freaking Bail Organa. I never thought Disney would go there, but to include him in there, I thought that was kind of a cool cameo. So that was welcome, as well as seeing all the other cameos from C-3PO and R2-D2. That stuff was cool as well. So overall, I love this movie. I think it's a great Star Wars anthology film and just a really, really good film in general on its own. It's definitely made better if you have knowledge of A New Hope. So I definitely think that's not a major key to enjoying it, but just will definitely enhance your experience. Personally, I think. I think it's definitely my favorite blockbuster of 2016. Sorry, Civil War, but number 2 now. And I wanted to see how I'd feel about it after the second viewing, and it's my second favorite Star Wars film in general. I definitely had Empire at number 1, but for 2 and 3, I wanted to see if Rogue One would be better than A New Hope. And as a film, I think it is better than A New Hope. So it's number 2 for me now. And, obviously definitely better than The Force Awakens, which I really like The Force Awakens. I think that's a really good movie. But, like I said, that movie had its problems of not having a lot of originality when it came to the story and playing it too safe. And that is definitely not the problem with this movie. Great anthology film. The last thing I'll mention is that this movie, the first time I saw it, I actually saw it in IMAX 3D. The second time I saw it in regular 2D. And I have to say, the reason I saw it in 2D the second time, I think the 3D was actually pretty bad in this movie. And I'm normally someone who really likes 3D. I mean, some 3D movies I saw this year, The Jungle Book and Doctor Strange, looked fantastic in IMAX 3D. But this film, just something about it wasn't popping. I guess they just weren't using it well enough, because throughout the film, when I saw it the first time, I just wanted to take the glasses off because they just weren't doing anything with the 3D. The final act of the film, well, the final battle at the end, final third, that looks cool, but that doesn't make up most of the film being so poor in 3D. So I actually would recommend seeing the movie in 2D, because I just think, it's just better that way. It's brighter and you're not having to deal with those damn glasses and most of the film looking terrible in 3D. So anyways, I guess that's my last little complaint right there. So I'm going to stop rambling. Overall, I'll still give the movie a 9 out of 10. Great movie, one of my favorites of the year, second favorite Star Wars film, and definitely my favorite blockbuster. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and definitely go out and see the movie, because it's one of the best of the year. So thanks. Take care. Bye.